Hey guys, Jeff from RenoVision. Welcome back to our bathroom disaster. We're working again in our master bathroom today. This video is all about rebuilding and the process of thinking the end from the beginning. I'm going to share all the decisions, all of the challenges. But today is all about this. Today is all about making a shower here with some integrity. All right, now let me just share with you here, if you haven't seen it, this is my hole. And it is a hell hole. Basically what's going on is we're dealing with 2x6 construction, particle board subfloor, which is incredibly weak. And we had a shower here that was disconnected. This drain was not connected. So there was just tons of water leaking all over the place, sitting on the floor, rotting out the joists, getting in behind the walls, causing mold, destroying the wall behind the shower. It was unbelievable. At some point, somebody has done a remodel here with this flooring. And so this one square here is actually brand new layer of plywood. It is 3/4. So, you know, good for them for having some integrity because they didn't want to fall through the floor. But they were unaware of this mess, which amazes me because it's been, I don't know, 35 some odd years. At some point, they even changed the plumbing. So here's the old water supply. This is that original PEX that everybody loves to hate. Okay, it's all been cut off. And whoever did this came underneath and connected brand new water supply everywhere and didn't bother to say, hey, by the way, your shower isn't connected? Ay, 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 what's this world coming to? So what we have to do today is first we have to laminate this beam with a brand new one. Got to get some structural integrity reinstated. Get a lot of questions in our members forum, and if you're not sure what that is, we have a membership plan on this channel so that if you're doing something new and creative and you're a little out of your toolbox there, you can join our membership for $5 a month and you can send me pictures and ask me questions and I'll answer them direct to help you out. In our members forum, we get questions all the time from folks about structure, okay? How to laminate, how to make a beam stronger, how to make sure that I'm ready for tile. Today in this video, we're gonna redirect this plumbing up out of the hole. We're gonna fill this all in so it has some structural integrity, that we get to the strength where you can build any kind of shower you want on top of this. But most importantly, we're gonna rebuild this so that we can have a walk-in shower with a small curb, because curbs give you options. Everybody wants to have the curbless shower, okay? Sexy is for the top 1%. Everybody else, we need practical. Get off the Housewives or whatever channel trying to figure out how you're going to renovate your bathroom and get back into the land of reality. We are just going to go with integrity. We're going to frame it, we're going to build it up, we're going to insulate it, we're going to fix the plumbing, we're going to create a foundation here for building our shower that we can do whatever we want with it. And I've got a system that we're going to put in here that is going to be so easy to build, it's going to blow your mind. But first, let's just deal with the obvious. Where I'm standing is old particle board. And you can see the deflection in this. So basically what this is garbage. We can't use this. We can't build on this and expect a positive result to last more than a week and a half. So since we can't use it, we're going to cut it out and then we're going to go forward. Got people all the time asking me, you know, can I just build this? Can I stick this on this? Can I go this layer on this layer? And here's the rule, okay? If you can punch a hole through it with one kick, you can't use it. Right? Like if it doesn't have any integrity and you leave it there, neither do you. Okay, so moving forward, I'm just gonna grab my saw, do a couple quick cut lines. We're gonna peel all this crap off. The design for the shower is simple. We're gonna go full wall to wall. I'm gonna build a wall on this end, okay, so I can reinstate my plumbing with some integrity, because this wall's got a huge curve. I've got a nasty broken vent pipe I gotta replace. And this vent is gonna stay here. By code, I can't go moving these things unless I get a permit, all right? So I can do all of this without a permit because I'm repairing myself. Okay, I'm not changing the way it was designed. So I'm gonna build a little wall right here back, create a ledge here for all my shampoo bottles. Nice and simple, okay? Let's get down and dirty first, because this requires getting some knee pads on. So, here we go. Now, the reason I don't have to be exact with what I'm cutting out is because I'm using my brain in my design. I'm building a wall here so that I can use an off-the-shelf standard door kit. Building a wall there so I can hide my plumbing also gives me the ability to not have to worry about how I'm tying in. And I'm building a bench back here. So all of my load transfer points in this area have nothing to do if there's a little bit of this particle board left. So I don't really care. And figures there's going to be aspects of this that are going to want to put up a fight. There we are. Gotta love a floor that's installed with staples, eh? Seems like almost everything in this build is installed with a staple gun. When it comes to the staples, grab yourself some pliers and get rid of them. If you hammer it down, it's going to affect the next layer that goes in. Man, when it's rotten, eh? Like, there's no coming back from that. It doesn't matter. You know the old adage, I like to let things dry, let a house to breathe. But once it turns to dust, there's no drying out that's going to help it. Dust is dust. Okay. Wow. As you can see, the water's swelling areas, right? Nasty. Well, there's the first good thing I've seen all this whole build. Well, everything's glued together and still connected. Fantastic. Well, that's encouraging. So what I'm doing here, it's not the most ideal. What I'm going to do is I'm going to accept the fact that this wood here is really still got a lot of integrity. And that's got a little bit of the rot to it, but a lot of integrity here. And I'm going to cut a piece of lumber to laminate from here to bind together with glues and screw to then transfer into that new piece of wood from one to the next, past this area, and then transfer back into this piece of wood, which is actually nailed into the rim joist, okay? I don't have any structure to set this on at any point. So what this is a true lamination, okay? It's not perfect, but by combining an extra laminated beam here and then building down from that point with 2x3s on all 4 sides, so 1, 2, 3, and then 4, and then putting plywood in between this height, and then laminating the plywood again, I'm going to end up with 1 1/4 inch plywood, okay, with a reinforced beam before I start rebuilding. And that should be tons of strength, okay? Sometimes you don't want to bring in a structural engineer for something silly. My bad zone is just right here. Again, this is what we call a repair, not a structural change. All right, so as long as you're repairing and you're not cutting out and replacing, you're okay, all right? No permits needed for this. As soon as I cut that board out and say it's no good, I want to replace it. That's a brand new world, right? So, time for a good old-fashioned 2x6 Band-Aid, and then we can move on. One of the 2 things we got to look for here. One, is the wood got a curve? And if so, you want the hump facing up, okay? That's key. Second, at the ends, if you're finding it too difficult to roll in a position because it's making contact, remember this isn't going to be used to hold up the existing subfloor. So feel free to just trim back a little bit on the end. The goal here is to make contact here with glue and screw, to transfer load from a solid piece of wood past the bad spot to another solid piece of wood. So if the ends are causing you issue, just trim them off. This is kind of like drywall. It doesn't have to be perfect. It needs to get installed. And so if you're driving yourself crazy, you're going to have an accident. Make life simple. Trim off your ends so you don't have to fight with it all day long. Cut so that it fits nice and snug in there. We're going to take our PL Premium here. All right, so here we are. I got my board set so that I can roll it in place, which is really super key here. We're going to just be somewhat liberal with our construction adhesive. There's no benefit here if we save a couple of ounces for another day. This is like $8 a tube. And when you're dealing with structure, throwing an extra 50 cents of something into play is never a bad thing. Just be careful. You don't want to come too close to the top so it squeezes out and it gets all over you, and then you track it all over the house. Destroy some other flooring somewhere. Remember, that stuff can't be washed after it's been cured. So, and that process to cure it takes only overnight. Here we are. We're going to be using a 3-inch screw for this. Now this is a construction screw. Down here in the States, everything is a T25 head. Now, what I'm going to do is roll this in place, and then I'm going to pin both ends first on an angle, and just to make sure that we can get all this in play. First thing is first. We want to go flush here. Okay. We're going to go at about a 5-degree angle, all right, just to make sure that the head of that screw doesn't come out the other side. All right. Then we're going to go take a look at our scenario down here. You'll see that this is a little raised. And that's not a problem. There's an easy fix for this. And it is the following. You take a screw and you put it on a 45-degree angle. Then you take your red bar and you take a wedge like that. Okay? Then you screw. If it's a 1/4 inch up, you want a 1/4 inch gap. You're on a 45-degree angle. You create a perfect triangle, okay? And then when I screw this in, I'm going to go all the way through into the next board on that angle, and it'll close this gap up. If you're not sure, you can go with a bigger gap and a more aggressive angle. But this is money in the bank. All right. That's that simple. So now we're pretty much flush around here. And you know what? I'm going to just call this my new height, and not going to leave any integrity up to this one. Okay, so now we've transferred the load. All we have to do is throw another couple hundred screws in. Just joking, it's not that many, right? We want 1 screw every 2 inches of dimensional strength, and then every 16 inches. Okay, whew. Now that that's done, we're going to do the same thing with 2x3s. Only we're going to take the thickness of our plywood that we're installing all over the house, and we're going to recess our plywood. I think it's 5/8. Here we go. Here's 5/8. That's 3/4, 5/8. We're going to recess all of our 2x3s to go this length. 1, 2, 3, and then 4. And then we'll cut our plywood to fill the gaps. Standard practice if you're going to do a walk-in shower. You've got to double layer your plywood so that you don't have deflection between your joists. So this is how you would do that if you're going to do a walk-in. We're still going to add the curb, because in this scenario I'm going to show you how to move this drain into a position where you can bring it through the floor, run it over to the center, and you can go large format tile in both directions on the floor if you want to. You don't have to do any, difficult, what we call envelope cuts, where you'd have all the drains going to the middle. So we're going to put in a linear drain shower system that eliminates the need for those difficult cuts. And in order to do that, I got to get a drain up and over, put in 1.5 on top of my plywood of foam to run that drain to the center line. We'll show all that in the next video. This one's going to be, I can get past that, eh? What do I got for mercy here? Not a lot. Okay, we're going to go to there then. We'll go with 55, 79, 79. And then 75. So, always write things down. That's good. I'm going back in. I also need my plywood, right? Okay, so here is the process. I've got 57. That's this one. All right, so I'm just gonna walk you through this real quick. I've got my, we're gonna call them like a secondary joist support, okay? Just like I laminated the first joist, I'm gonna put this one in. Okay, now this one is only carrying the weight of the piece of plywood that's gonna go in between the joists. So it's not as crucial as the 2x6, because this one's carrying the weight of basically that section of flooring, right? So in this case, we're just going to go with one screw every 16 inches or so. And then we will add some glue as well. There we are. I'm going to check to see how flat it is. Oh, nice. Almost the same as the other one. Again, because it's just kind of secondary, I'm only just going to go with one bead instead of an S. Hang it off over the side there. And what we're going to do is we're going to just tack in 2 screws, and then we're going to set the depth to the proper height. If we can get in that. We're going to run into some issues here with this plumbing, aren't we? What I'm going to do is just set this here real quick. Here's the subfloor. I'm going to see if I can push that down far enough that I get level with the existing joist, because that is the goal here, and I can. All right, existing joist. Run this over here. See here I'm a little high. There we go. Let's get that existing joist height. Okay. That's how we set the first layer. So now we've got compression into the adhesive. We've got this, the height set perfectly. We'll do the same for the next one. But over here, I've cut a little bit off because you can see this plumbing can't be adjusted. So I got to work around it. So what I've done is I've created just a thin little cut. Like I said, it's enough to put weight. Okay, so I got a pressure point here and here. That'll transfer load. Generally speaking, you have 15.5 inches gap between joists. And we don't cross frame, okay? So as long as any direction there's 16 inches or less, you have enough framing for subfloor. From here to here, if there's less than 16 inches, that's fine. That's the same as from here to here, okay? So we're gonna put this in, and that'll transfer the load of the subfloor just tickety-boo. Yeah. This stuff is so much fun to work with. There we go. Again, we'll use our spacer, and I'm just gonna kind of cross from this floor joist. There we go. Now I'm going to set my height. I like that. There we go. Make sure we're not screwing near the plumbing. You know, always think, end the beginning, careful. There we go. So, that entire side now is, I'm going to consider to be structurally strong. The only thing that I've got left to do here is I'm going to take a piece of scrap because I've got glue that squeezed out. And if something happens and I don't get back to this in time, create a ridge and I won't be able to get my plywood on right. The phone rings. Kids call. Hey, I missed the bus. Right? Think like you're going to get interrupted. And so if you get interrupted, bad things don't happen. Okay? Now, let's do the long one just one more time. Right? Okay? This wood isn't necessarily going to be straight. So when you're setting this up, set yourself up for success. Get the adhesive on, get a screw for each end that you can make the height you want. You can always manipulate in the middle as you go. Okay. And again, we'll set this on, and drive that screw. With the other end, we're going to manipulate this. That I'm really happy with. Now, if you go here, we're going to just check for flush all the way along. I got a bit of a dip in the middle here, okay? And this is where the opportunity to fix things comes along. If you're not sure how to lift something, check this out. Find the midpoint, get the hammer in there. You see that? There we go. Okay, you'll be all right. Now, again, every 16 to 24 inches, the glue's gonna do all the work here. We're going to get the other 2 sides of the cavity you can't see, and then we'll just jump right ahead to putting the plywood in. So in typical fashion, the guy that preaches knowing the end from the beginning did things out of step. You know, always think, end the beginning, careful. I was planning on cutting my plumbing here, okay, and then just elbowing it up with a new P-trap. For whatever reason, they went down to 1.25 inch drain for a tub or a shower, which is really stupid, which is why it wasn't connected. The fittings didn't work, so somebody just walked away. Anyway, what I got here is I got a metal blade, because PVC cuts really nice with a thin, simple blade. If you put an aggressive blade on there, it's going to cause you all kinds of headache. Generally speaking, you want to be holding the piece that's staying behind and not the piece that you're cutting. But I'm kind of right-handed and going in this backwards and upside down, which is why this would have been easier a little bit ago. But we're just going to go and cut this and get this done. It's not good enough to leave it like that, okay? Wow. Looks like there's remnants of another fitting in there. That is bizarre. Everything I see here really freaks me out. One of the things you want to do when you're cutting plastic with a blade is you want to ream it. That's a fancy word for scratch the edge with something stronger than plastic. You can use the edge of your knife once you've done that. All right, I'm also a big fan whenever you're cutting plumbing. Sanding the surface. Whenever you're using solvents and adhesives, it's nice to have a roughed up surface a little bit. You can also use that to make sure you're reamed out. Because it's one thing to glue together, we're going to call it, brand new pipe, but this is anything but new. So we're going to make it look new. There we go. Here we go, guys. This is the OTA kit. It's a primer and then a solvent. They work together, all right? It's 2 in 1. Don't just buy one, buy the kit. And you remember all the times in the past I've said, you got to have a wrench to open these up. Well, look what they've done. They went and invented a wrench you can put in your toolbox. Right there with your plumbing. Throw it on there, and then you can just squeeze. Perfect every time. Except this purple stuff. Oh, that's right, is it ever super runny? Okay, so now my hand is purple for a week. That's just great. We are going to prime the pipes and the fittings. It's gonna make a mess. That's okay. This isn't about being pretty, it's about being perfect. All right, there we go. Same with the P-trap. Now, because I don't care about my location, I just want it done. Because anywhere it comes up with the system I'm gonna show you, I'm gonna put an elbow on it and I run it over to the middle, and my drain tray comes with a 90 base. It all fits together. You'll see it in another video down the road here, okay? And now we take our glue. We're gonna wipe that, we're gonna wipe that. We're gonna stick that on there like that. Yes, that's a 90 degree there. Okay, huh? Comme ça. And a little bit of primer for this joint. And then a little bit of glue over here. All the way around. If you hit everything with everything, you're gonna be good. Stick it on, rotate it until it looks like it's gonna come straight up. Push it all the way in. Just for a little extra added strength here, I ripped this off of a door. I'm out of all round and I don't feel like going to the store. And since I'm throwing this door out in a matter of weeks anyway, I'm gonna use this. Okay, now I'm just gonna screw this, not on the joint, but beside the joint. Okay, and it's gonna go underneath the pipe and hopefully all the way over to the other side. It makes it. That is a great DIY redneck solution if I ever seen one in my life. All around, by the way, is a more preferred choice here. It's the metal strapping you buy in a box. It's about 4 by 4 inches. What that does, that's giving me a little bit of a downward support, okay? So when I'm doing all my work, I'm not gonna risk breaking a joint in the connection, because we don't want broken joints in our plumbing vents, do we? Now I wanna cut a piece of pipe that comes up that is much longer than I need. That is the goal here, okay? So let's get a tape measure. All right, here we go. All right, that's good. My pipe needs to be plus 3/4 in. We're gonna go, there's my floor, my floor, my floor. I'm gonna go to 16, just so that I don't have any problems, okay? Because it's easier to trim it off and cut it to be exact fit later. So, now I need a 16-inch piece of pipe. All right, guys, time to put some plywood in. Real quick, plywood does not come flat, it comes warped. Try to always cut it so the warp is in the middle, is the hump. Then you're screwing everything down into place, okay? Instead of screwing everything up. Get it? Oh, come on. Gotta have a little fun. I'm gonna be happy with that. Remember, I'm building a wall here, okay? I don't care about the gap. It's irrelevant. Lots of points of contact. And of course, plywood is always warped, so it's not gonna just drop flat in place. What you do is you start in the middle, okay? And I know I've got 1.5 inch wood, just like this. So that's the goal. Screw it down. Follow good subfloor practices. Every 16 inches again. I don't mind using adhesive on structure. In this scenario, because the floor that I'm putting in is so merciful, okay, with as far as my deflection and my expansion contraction, I'm not worried about it. All right, there. That one's done. Now all I gotta do for this one is cut a hole right to the center of this, drop it in place. Oh, I forgot something. Yep, Jeff's moving too fast. Here's a great reason to demonstrate why I didn't use adhesive, because I move too fast sometimes and make mistakes. I did not insulate the floor cavity. And you're probably already in the comment section screaming. That's okay. When you make a mistake, stop, go backwards, fix it. One of those days. What I'm gonna do is just back the screws out, leave it in the plywood. That'll at least save me a minute or two when I go back. There we go. Alrighty then. In the words of Bruce Almighty, I need to use approximately that much insulation in the floor. That's all I'm going to get in the walls. There is no sense here for me to insulate the floor at a greater degree than the wall. So these things actually become something like 94 inches long. Gotta love it. Thermal and sound control. That's just awesome. And I'm not gonna try to cut it to fit it. I'm just gonna stuff it in. Okay? And I'm not too worried about it. We're gonna lose a little bit of R value in here. If it's stuffed in, at least I know it's not going anywhere. And we'll get that right up to the end of the cavity here. Now for good measure, you see that this has like a wing, paper wings on it. Okay, I don't even have my stapler here, I don't think. Didn't come into town with all the fancy tools. So what I'm going to do is just set my plywood right on there, on that paper wing, and expect that it catches most of it. There, I cut that side. Use a little bit of common sense here. Okay, now we're insulated. All right. I think before I insulate this thing, I'm going to measure and cut the hole for that plywood and do a dry fit, make sure that it's going to work. We're going to measure in here. About the same depth as that piece of plywood, because I cut them both the same length. We're going to call that 15. This is on the large side. And then we're going to go to 3 3/4. That's my center. Okay, this piece here is pie-shaped. All right, so this is this wall. And so I measure down 15, like this. If you want to find the center of something, this is a great way to do it. And then 3 3/4. Okay, there's your hole. Now the pipe is an 1.5 inch pipe, but that generally means about a 2-inch exterior. What we want to do is put one on the line here and mark like this. Same with here. Okay. That is a 2-inch exterior square hole. And if you're like me, you don't know where your hole saw kit is. And we're going to cut this a little generous. We're going to use a skill saw because I didn't bring my jigsaw today either. Love being in a foreign country without all my tools, but it's going to cause us to have to be a little more creative and probably show you tricks that you're going to need on your job because not everybody owns all the darn tools, right? I've got a plunge set right here of about 6 inches, okay? So you gotta use your brains here. If you're not comfortable with a tool like this, take a screw, okay? Screw the board down. And keep all your appendages out of the way, all right? Whenever you're plunging wood, if you twist, it can catch. And because the teeth, as you can see, are coming this way, if it catches, it'll run back on you, all right? So if you're holding the blade open to do a plunge cut, and it runs back on you, and let's say you're dumb enough to keep your leg there, well, you know where your femoral artery is, right? Right here? Yeah, that'll slice you open. You're dead in 30 seconds. Be smart. Okay, here we go, plunge cut. Have years of experience or stay the hell out of the way. That's what being smart is. This one's done. Now we're ready for installation. All right, Mr. DJ, let's do this. Spin that wheel. I already have a stronger floor than every house built before 1985. All right. And to demonstrate, that's a lot different than the last time I stepped on the floor, ain't it? Okay, so now our goal is to get the next piece of plywood cut to fill the entire space. But before I cut that in, I'm gonna vacuum everything up because dirt is your enemy when you're finishing, right? You don't need trapped dirt everywhere. So for the sake of argument, this floor joist is out of square. This back wall is clean up to the pipe, but afterwards it's not cleaned yet. So I have two choices. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna present myself an idea that this is square, right there in that corner. So I'm gonna measure from there to there to the other end, and then I'm going to measure from there to there and create a bit of a unequal square, okay? Measure in for the notch, measure in for the hole, put it in as one piece. Remember, because of all the levels of structure that we got going on here, I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to close every tiny gap, okay? So be merciful to yourself, okay? We don't want to have too many gaps, but we don't need it to be absolutely perfect. And the reason we don't need it perfect is because the way I'm building. So let's just try to make life simple. By having something square to measure off, it increases our likelihood of us not really messing this up. I'm going to call that 33. Okay? And right now, this is 6 feet. I already know that part. So 6 feet is the length up to here. It's the same 52 and 55. I'm going to measure that down here. 52, 55. We're going to come out 4.5. 4.5. Okay? And I'm going to go back. I'm going to come back 3.5. And then this depth will be different than this depth. Okay? That's because I'm building a wall here as well. So I only need to come to this plywood, all right? Because my interior wall is going to cover over all this mess. My bench is going to cover over all that mess. I just need to get this measurement here, which is going to be, I'm going to call it 31.5 from this point. Okay? That's the goal. So I'm going to measure from here, from here, 31.5. So when I'm marking this out from my square, that's the key here, right? From my square, that measurement, I come back over, back in, which is a different depth, go to that corner, measure off that corner, connect those two dots because it's not a straight line. And then over here, I'm going to go back to 15 is that line. Yeah, 19. And an 8th is this line. Then we want to be somewhat exact. Okay. Yeah, bingo. I'm just going to throw in a few screws real quick, guys, and then I'm going to show you my system for sealing up these holes because we do have penetrations in the floor, okay? And we don't want them. So in the back here, it's easy. I'm going to build a bench. So I build a wall, so everything here gets sealed. Here I'm building a wall, so that gets sealed. But around this pipe, and around this pipe, not getting walls, not getting sealed, so I gotta show you my secret. Now, let's get to the trick. All right, because this is a great trick for keeping rodents out of your house. If you don't have framing and you've got a hole, grab yourself some steel wool. This is 000. Oh, this is coarse. Yeah, I grabbed the cheap stuff. I'm not using this to sand my furniture. I'm just using this to keep mice out. This is it. They don't want to eat through this junk, okay? So we're just going to take it and we're going to shove it in the hole. Nothing structural going on there. And if you want to add a thermal break to it, I'll show you another trick too. Just remember, whenever mice run into metal, they stop eating. Mice can't form a blood clot. So if they start to bleed, they'll actually bleed to death. Even if it's just in like a little nick in their gums. They'll actually bleed out the suckers. So what you do, and that's just marvelous to know, isn't it? How to kill mice effectively. Grab yourself some spray foam. This is the thermal content of this mess, okay? Right into that metal. I'm not setting a trap for them, I'm just making sure that I have a thermal break in this hole as well. Remember, I put fiberglass insulation around that. Not the greatest thermal break. So, when in doubt, foam it out. Okay? It's easier to trim that stuff off after the fact. And you just throw a little bit of that into the metal itself. There we go. We'll leave that for another day. Remember, I just put a new P-trap in. There's no water in that yet. Get the sewer gases from coming into your house. Boom, buy a little test cap. Plug that sucker up, okay? That's money in the bank. Now, I've got to make a quick run to the store, get some new 2x4s so I can build this wall. I can build this wall. I can build that bench. I can build this wall. I can build this wall. This was an access door from outside the building to the hot water tank. So this was a 12-2 black and red hot water wire. Now the hot water tank's been moved to a different location on different power supply, and so this should be off, right? Let's just cut it and get out of here. Because what I want to do is I want to move this, pull it back through the wall, and have it in the tub location. Okay, so before we go and cut this, because 12-2 power is pretty crazy, let's pull out the $8 tester. Right, let's see if it works. Yeah, that identifies power. All right, let's see if it's on. Seems like it's saying it's pretty safe. What do you say we go for it? Yep, just fine. So, now we know there's no power in it for sure. We can pull it through. Now for everybody going, wait Jeff, you're not an electrician, you can't touch the electrical. I'm not touching the electrical. I'm touching a disconnected wire that's no longer part of the electricity of the house. But it does run all the way back to the panel. And if I open the panel, I'm going to find the other end of this wire looped inside that panel, available to be used again in the future. Because no electrician in their right mind would disconnect it here and then cut it back. They would take it out and cap it and save it in the box, okay? So, I know that that's still at the other end. I just wanted to get this back into the other side of the room where my tub's going. So I've got an available 12-2 wire if I want to add jets. Because if I do that, all I need to do is hire the electrician to come in and connect the jets. That's 10 minutes, right? I don't want to have him coming in here and doing all kinds of panel work and everything else. Just nice and quick and simple. Whenever you can save yourself an electrician pulling wire, drilling holes, doing all the silly stuff that you can do, you're saving money. We're just going to identify every one of these quasi-electrical staples. Man, these are just the cheapest concept in town. Yeah, these are like fence staples, right? I don't know, does everybody get to get away with these? They're using it on wire. There's no stamp on it, there's no code, there's no S1, there's nothing. I guess it's just related to these temporary housing structures. They can break all kinds of rules. There's another rule they break. Don't tell me I got it right the first time. Oh, There's 3 of them. I was just trying to get lucky. Just to make sure that I don't accidentally cut the wrong length. I'm just gonna pull this one step at a time all the way back. It's gonna be an awful lot of wire in it. Yeah, we just don't need that much wire. And you know what? I always say, just in case, close your eyes. All right. Now my tub is gonna be a 48 inch. So this is coming back within 32 inches of the corner, which is perfect. No matter where the location of the hookup is, I can reach both ends of the tub here. So I'm just cutting away the sheathing and throw the morettes back on. Here's a little something interesting for you. This is a the 12-2 white and black. But the wire I cut looked like it was black and red. What he did is he dyed the wire, painted it with something. Maybe a spray paint. I've never seen that before. If anybody's ever heard of that, that's a nifty trick. I'd love to know if you're an electrician. What are you using? Is it a spray can? Neat. So you just identify it as a second hot lead. That makes sense. I mean, anybody wiring a hot water tank has a 12-2 wire going to a hot water tank knows what it's for. But that's a cool trick. Now we have a discontinued wire. Okay. For now, I'm going to leave it hanging outside the wall. What I'm doing right now is I'm just furring out this wall with some horizontal supports. Because I'm going to build a wall in front of this wall, okay? But I don't want to have to attach it to the ceiling because there's not going to be anything up there. So I'm going to put in 3 horizontal supports, and then I'm going to have a bottom, middle, and a top location. 6 points where I can attach my wall. There we go. Now I got structure on structure. Now I'm also going to be doubling up here. This is the end of a wall. It goes into the next room. What I want this one for is because I'm building a wall here. That's going to be about 4 feet high. And off the end, I'm going to have a 2x6 going all the way up. And I want to have that 2x6 have something that I can tack into against that wall. So that's what that's for. Thinking end from the beginning, always put in back framing and lumber so that you have somewhere to attach your walls. Don't build a wall, put it in place, and say, now how am I going to figure this out? And get creative. Get creative ahead of time. Give yourself something to attach your wall to. I'm also going to be laminating this piece and this piece, right? Just to make sure that I've got structure in this wall. I don't want 1x3s holding up my wall. Later in the project, we're going to be in the other bathroom. We're going to be tearing this wall out, okay, and get rid of all that mold that we buried up here that we encapsulated for the time being. So I want to make sure that I've got a wall there that I can actually build on as well. Boom, diddy boom. There we are. Now you'll notice that although I'm laminating, I cut them all short on purpose because I don't like to fuss around. Okay? That extra inch isn't going to do me a darn bit of good. But that 1x4 is now strong enough to carry structural load. If I want to carry any wood in there for hanging fixtures. Like when I redesign that room, I might want to put a towel ring somewhere. So when I pull all this drywall off, I'll be able to say, okay, I can cross brace. I don't want to be attaching nothing to 1x3s. Wow, that's framed with 1x3s. Anything to save a buck, eh? That's just scary. All right, here we go. And one more for good measure. I think I'm gonna have to go on this side. Something going on the other side here. All right, that's the beginning. Now, deal with this mess. This is what we've all been waiting for, right? So, there's a couple things going on here. One, there's a little bracket screwed from behind. Okay, you can see the little screws holding this together. That's pretty much carrying all the weight, okay? We gotta make sure that when we disconnect and we rebuild that we're still carrying the weight. This is the trick. So what I'm gonna do is I am going to throw, that vent has to go back in that location at some point. Yeah, I'm gonna get a scrap piece of 1x5. Mount it to this and behind going vertical, just so I have something to screw this to, carry the weight in the meantime while I rebuild. Now, don't get upset with me. I know I said 1x5, I meant 2x6. I was thinking, looking at the 1x3, thinking of a 2x6, and kind of ended up with something in between. But the point here is, don't be upset if I'm hanging this off the 1x3, because, like I said, it's temporary. And temporarily, it'll carry the weight of this. All right, these brackets, this plastic business actually, it's supposed to be temporary. You're supposed to remove these. They have a brass bracket back here. Okay, we're just gonna throw one in the bottom. Should be one down here too. Nothing too severe. We just want to have a little bit of flexibility. We carry the weight. Now we know we're not gonna damage anything. I don't want one of those elbow joints underneath to break off because I don't believe that the plumbing underneath is very well supported. And then we go like this. Traditionally, what we do, and I know this might sound crazy, but we'll put a piece of board from here to here and then screw this in. Right? Doesn't that make more sense?